And the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine.
What's going on internationally? How do we get to the place where, Putin decides he's going to just invade Russia? Nothing like this has happened in World War II.
Today is July 26, 2025. There is an ongoing armed conflict between the Kingdom of Thailand and neighboring Cambodia here in Southeast Asia, where I am based. This has been going on for several days now. Let's take a look at some of the headlines from the Western media regarding this conflict. Thailand and Cambodia exchange heavy artillery fires, border battle expands. This was July 25th, yesterday. And here's a little summary. Cambodia PM says Thailand agreed to ceasefire, then backed out. Thailand says it agrees in principle with truce. We'll consider based on conditions. US, Malaysia, China have offered to mediate. Thailand says Cambodia accuses Thailand of damaging 11th century temple. Cambodia attacking civilian areas with rockets, shelling. Thailand says, and also video taken by Cambodians in Cambodia show BM-21 Grad rocket launchers firing these unguided rockets into civilian areas where they are blowing up 7-Elevens, gas stations, hitting hospitals, hitting people's homes, and killing civilians. We have this from CNN. Cambodia condemns Thai military over damage to UNESCO World Heritage Site, and they're complaining about F-16s dropping bombs on a road near the temple. But why is Thailand dropping bombs on roads in Cambodia or on maybe residential areas? And you have to remember these bombs are precision-guided weapons, unlike the BM-21 Grad rockets. Why might they be doing that? Probably because Cambodian forces are operating their multiple launch rocket systems from these roads and from residential areas. And in the fighting, we have seen Thailand deploy drones, and these drones are carrying out drone drop operations, as they're often called in the Ukraine-Russia war. And these are drones that fly over a target, drop a grenade or a mortar or an improvised explosive device, and blow up whatever the target is below it. And there's footage of Thai drones doing this to localized ammunition dumps. When you're firing artillery, you will have a stash of ammo nearby that you're drawing from to load your weapon and fire it. And if the enemy finds that and targets it, well, all of your ammunition is gone, and many things nearby might be damaged as that ammunition goes off. And it's useful to look at a map and see what is going on. So we have Asia, China, India, the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. Here is Thailand. And here is Cambodia. Laos to the north, Vietnam along the coast. And much of this fighting is taking place along this border here. This is where the disputed territory is. But I've also heard reports of clashes near Trat, which is a Thai province near the Cambodian border and is nowhere near this disputed territory. So why is that happening? If that is confirmed, that signifies that Cambodia is trying to escalate this beyond just the border clashes that have taken place in the past. Now, people are asking me, why is this happening? Who is behind this? Is this a proxy war? And if so, between whom? And it's not really a proxy war being fought between a US ally and a Chinese ally per se. It is more of a conflict the US is trying to start to do to Thailand and also China the same thing it has been doing to Russia. You remember the Rand Corporation documents extending Russia competing from advantageous ground, and they have all of these measures that they want to use to overextend, to put pressure on and overextend Russia internally, externally, through economics, through geopolitical measures, which means through war, proxy war, terrorism. If the US were to devise a plan like this to overextend, say, Thailand or Southeast Asia, or to create problems in Southeast Asia for China itself, where would they go? They would go to ongoing disputes that have resulted in clashes in the past, and they would ignite all of these conflicts. The US is already behind an ongoing war in Myanmar between US-backed militants and opposition groups and the central government. So that is on the western border of Thailand. On the eastern border is this temple issue, and this has happened in 2008, 2011, and now 2025. And if you look at each one of these junctures, a US client regime is either trying to get into power or stay into power. And every single time this happens, fighting takes place in Thailand's deep south, where there are separatist groups trying to carve off Thai territory in the deep south. And this border issue always flares up. And so it is to Thailand what these options, these US options are to Russia. Pressure points the US pushes on when they are trying to overextend Thailand, coerce Thailand. Why are they trying to coerce Thailand? Because a US-backed client regime is in power right now, and it is in the process of being undermined and removed. Very slowly but surely. I have a guide from 2020 going over US interference in Thailand. Now, this is in regards to protests that were taking place in 2019 and 2020. But all of this information is still relevant. All of these opposition groups are still in business. They're still operating. These billionaires are still at the center of Thai politics. Right now, the current prime minister, although she's suspended, is the daughter of billionaire Thaksin Shinawatra. This is a picture of him in New York at the Council on Foreign Relations in 2006, when the Thai military ousted his government from power. He was prime minister from 2001 to 2006. While prime minister, he began selling Thailand out to the United States. Before he became prime minister, he was a Carlyle advisor. This is an equity firm connected to the Bush Senior administration. And before he became prime minister, he told people that he would use his political connection and position to make deals for US equity firms, connect them to Thai resources and infrastructure. And then that's what he did while he was prime minister. He started strip mining state-owned enterprises and natural resources, including PTT, which is the oil production enterprise here in Thailand. There's been a long fight to try to reverse all the damage he did all the way back between 2001 and 2006. He also sent Thai troops to Iraq to participate in the US occupation of Iraq from 2003 on. Were very unpopular amongst Thais. That was something he did. He also invited the US CIA to use Thailand as part of their extraordinary rendition program. This was all happening under Thaksin Shinawatra. And a lot of people like to bring up Thailand is a major non-NATO ally of the United States. That designation was made in 2003 when Thaksin Shinawatra was Prime Minister of Thailand. And things have drastically changed since then. The US wants him back into power. They want to eliminate the Thai institutions preventing him from achieving total power over Thailand. They do not want to roll back that status. They want it in place so they can cement it once they get Thaksin and his proxies into power once and for all. So that is what's going on in Thailand. This current conflict right now with Cambodia, there is not just Thailand versus Cambodia. It is the current Thai civilian government, backed by the US, the Thai military, which opposes US control over Thailand, and the Cambodian government, whom Thaksin is very close friends and associates with. The Cambodian government, headed by Hun Sen and now his son, Hun Manet, they have participated in US destabilizing actions here in Thailand for many, many years. When the US was trying to get Thaksin back into power after 2006, they organized color revolution, mobs, and even in armed violence, militants with war weapons, especially in 2010, took to the city. They burned sections of the city to the ground. A dress rehearsal, if you will, for the US engineered Arab Spring the next year in 2011. And when these people fled, when it failed and they fled to Cambodia, and that's where they were harbored, and that's where they have operated out of for many years since. And leading up to this conflict, this current conflict, Thaksin Shinawatra had been in Cambodia with Hun Sen just last year, talking about something. He is recognized as the de facto leader of Thailand, despite his daughter technically being now the suspended prime minister, but prime minister of Thailand. They were up to something. And now, suddenly, there is this border clash that pops up again. In 2008, when the US was trying to get Thaksin and his party back into power. 2011, Thaksin was trying to get his sister Yingluck Shinawatra into power. Border flared up again. And now in 2025, as his daughter is being worked out of the government, this border issue flares up again. It's also important to understand, because there might be confusion, there is another billionaire, Thanathorn Juangroongruangkit. He is the junior partner of Thaksin Shinawatra. They often like to pretend that they're at odds with each other. But if you are here in Thailand and you're familiar with both of these people and their movements, their headquarters are literally right next to each other. Bangkok is a massive city. You could go up to a skyscraper in all directions. You will see the city extend out indefinitely. And yet their headquarters are literally right next to each other. And in the past, they had openly worked together. And now they work together in a way that's more like good cop, bad cop. Thaksin tries to pretend that he wants to make up with Thailand's institutions, indigenous institutions. Thanathorn wants to overthrow them. So you have the carrot and the stick, and they're trying to work their way in through carrot and stick, all backed by the US. And again, if you go to this article, which will be linked in the video description below, I include all of the evidence, the National Endowment for Democracy funding behind all of them, all of the core protest leaders and their connection to any defunded organizations. Thanathorn Juangroongruangkit, and I'll play the clip also. When Thailand began building a much closer relationship with China, and this was after Thaksin Shinawatra's sister Yingluck Shinawatra was overthrown in 2014, the second military coup, removing Thaksin and his proxies from power. That is when Thailand began really cementing its ties with China. That is when they signed the Thai-Chinese high-speed rail line deal. That's when construction began on it. That is when Thailand began buying by far more weapons from China than from the US. That is when Thailand began ramping up military drills with China to offset ongoing long-standing drills that had been conducted with the US over the years. And this is when the economy had begun fully pivoting to China being the largest investor, import and export partner, source of tourism. That is when all of that took place. And Thaksin and Thanathorn, they have both been playing roles to try to slow this down or reverse it. And so Thanathorn in particular traveled to the United States. He went to the Hyperloop project in the desert in Nevada, and then he came back and he said, we need to cancel the Thai-Chinese high-speed rail and build Hyperloop, which, by the way, was always fiction. It never really existed. It was never a real option. What he was saying is, don't build any infrastructure at all if you have to build it with China. Better to just not build it at all and not develop at all than to make closer ties with China. And then he said something even more alarming, should be alarming to anybody.
We want to rebalance the game of power between big nations. I think over the past 5 years, we have been giving too much importance in dealing with China. We want to reduce that, and we want to rebalance our relationship to the Europe, to the Japan, to the US more.
Thailand needs to pivot away from China back towards the US, Europe, and Japan, despite these countries, the EU as a bloc, representing no actual better alternative than China has to offer Thailand. So the goal here is very simple. Thailand, its institutions, the military, the monarchy, you could call it a deep state of special interests that are invested in Thailand because they're located here in Thailand. They want a closer relationship with China. They don't want to close the door on the US, but they also don't want the US rearranging their society and telling them how to run their own business. Thaksin and Thanathorn are forces that are meant to politically capture the country and do to Thailand what the US has done to the Philippines, to Ukraine, to Georgia, in many ways to Cambodia. Now let's examine the economics between the ties between the US and China and both of these countries. Let's look at that real quick. This is important to understand. This is Thailand. This is via the Harvard University Atlas of Economic Complexity. This is as of 2023, but it should be around the same right now. If you look at Thailand exports, by far the largest export partner is China. And you say, Brian, it's 13, almost 14%, and this is 16%. You have to count Hong Kong. Hong Kong is part of China, okay? So if you take this 4% plus this 14%, you have 18% versus 16%. So China is the largest export partner of Thailand, and Asia as a whole is the largest export region. The US, North America, Europe combined don't even come close. And then in terms of imports, you know, the US hardly makes anything at all. And obviously China and the rest of Asia is Thailand's largest source of imports. What about Cambodia? It's almost a negative image of Thailand. The largest export partner of Cambodia is the United States, a whopping 35.27%. Together with Canada and Europe, it dwarfs all of Asia combined, including China. China doesn't even come close. Now, of course, for imports, again, they just don't make anything of use. China, Thailand, Vietnam, they're right there for Cambodia, so obviously they're going to import more from them than from these other countries. They also don't have any money to buy anything from these countries. So when you look at that, it tells you a story of economic cooperation and also dependence. And Thailand is in a much better position to counter leverage nations are trying to gain over, especially the West, because that's what they do when it comes to trade and economics. Cambodia, not so much. Here's something else you might not know about Cambodia. They use the US dollar as currency inside their own country. Yes, that is true. This is from the Phnom Penh Post. This is this year, July 2025. This month, the dominance of the dollar in Cambodia, causes, effects, solutions. This link will be in the video description below. It's very tragic. It's very sad why this is and how difficult it will be for Cambodia to change this. There's no sign that they will change this. And they talk about how other countries have gone from using the US dollar to their own domestic currency. Laos is an example. I remember many years ago going to Laos and seeing US dollars and thinking how strange that was. Today, they're doing all of their exchanges in Kip, the local currency of Laos. They have regained their dignity. Thailand, but most importantly, China, have invested in development in Laos, real development, lifted the country up, out from under the shadow of US imperialism, and given them their dignity and their sovereignty back. They actually have a operating high-speed rail line that connects Thailand to China. Now, let's look at this. This is pretty much how this all began. Pat Tongton Chinawat, the daughter of Thaksin Chinawat, who's just doing whatever her father is telling her. She is not qualified to be prime minister. She is just there because her last name is Chinawat. And she is making some sort of deal with Cambodia regarding this disputed territory that goes all the way back to French colonial times. By the way, Thailand is the only country never colonized by a Western power in this region. Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam were colonized by the French. Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore, colonized by the British. And Thailand was in the middle, and they remained uncolonized. And that was because of their military and monarchy uniting the people and preventing colonial powers from dividing and destroying their society like they did to all of their neighbors. Now, this border dispute has been ongoing since the early 1900s. The French, when they were drawing their maps, made mistakes, and then international institutions, which are actually just Western institutions, deliberately left this unresolved to keep it as a ticking time bomb. So when they need a conflict to spark, and they can get one or the other or both parties on either side of the border to spark that conflict, then they will. And that is how they colonized the region in the first place, and that's how they maintain influence over to this day. So Thaksin Chinawat, his daughter, his political party, were making some sort of deal or plan with Cambodia regarding this disputed territory on the border. And they knew the Thai military and Thai people would never accept this. They knew by doing this they would create a crisis that would put the military in an impossible position and probably trigger armed conflict. And this is what they had done the last two times, 2008, 2011 also. And when this conversation was leaked, the prime minister had a conversation with Hun Sen in Cambodia, and they were talking about this, and they were saying, the Thai military is the one causing the problem, not me. I'm not part of this. They're the ones making the problem, not me. And then this was leaked, and this divided Thai people. It angered Thai people, and it created an environment in which this conflict could be tipped off. And then Cambodia took the provocative measures of mining the border where Thai troops were patrolling, severely injuring, blowing the leg off of a Thai soldier. And then there was the fire of unguided rockets by Cambodia into populated areas on the Thai side of the border, which includes a lot of ethnic Cambodians, by the way. I've been to that border region. There are people from Cambodia living on the Thai side, coexisting very well with Thai people. There is no real animosity between these two countries. A lot of people make this out as if it's some sort of historical issue. People don't go to war over history, over religion, over ethnicity. These are things people in power use to dupe people into fighting wars that are based purely on power and profit. Power and profit that will not be shared with these ordinary people duped into it. That needs to be remembered. And so, in other words, they work together. The civilian government in Thailand and the government in Cambodia work together to create this conflagration, to draw the Thai military in and create this problem. And as the US has done to Russia, create all of these pressure points on Thailand, just like they have done to Russia. And if you look at Thailand, so they have this border issue here. Cambodia reportedly is operating down here now. You have a war in Myanmar taking place all along the border here. And you have US-backed separatists in the Deep South killing people and trying to carve off provinces in the Deep South. And all of this has been going on and accelerating every single time US-backed client regimes are either trying to worm their way into power or trying to stay in power. And of course, inside Thailand, you have the NED-funded opposition and the media and everyone else working against Thailand's best interest because they are politically captured by the US. And zooming out and just looking at this from a distance, at a minimum, the US simply wants to create conflict across Asia because Asia is uniting like never before, rising together with China, and the US openly says it wants to counter this. How are they going to do that? They're not going to offer Asia an alternative to cooperate with them in ways China cannot offer. They have no intention of doing that. They couldn't do that even if they wanted to. So how are they doing it? By creating conflict and division, chaos and pressure, overextending individual countries and the entire region, just like they're doing to Russia, just like they've been doing to Iran in the Middle East, and as they are doing here in Asia. And I warned people that this was coming. I warned people that what the US is doing in Europe and in the Middle East, they will do here in Asia. And they're setting up all of the pieces. And this is just the beginning. And even if this conflict calms down, it's always simmering. It's always a pressure point that could ignite at any moment while they build up the Philippines as a US proxy, as they continue militarizing Taiwan, an island province of the rest of China, as they continue fortifying their positions in Japan and South Korea and Okinawa and Pacific Islands, all closer to China than to the US, and as they try to sow political division inside these countries and between them. So this is what is actually going on. People need to see this. They need to, I've argued with many people the last several days. They say, Brian, you're right about Ukraine. You're right about Syria and Iran. You were even right about Trump. I thought you were wrong about Trump, but you were absolutely right about Trump. But Brian, you are wrong about Thailand. Thailand is a non-NATO US ally. They have been since 2003. And you expect me to believe that the US isn't backing Thailand? this is where I live. This is where I've gotten all of my insight to analyze with precision all of these other areas that I've never actually visited. This is where I've been almost my entire adult life, here in Thailand. I've watched firsthand the US interfere here. I've watched them build up Thaksin and also Thanathorn and their associated political movements. I've watched the protests. I've heard the explosions and the gunfire. I've walked past the places they've burned down and destroyed. I have friends personally affected by all of this. I have a relative, a family relative on the border who had to leave the area because of the fighting right now. I am much more aware of what's going on here than anywhere else in the world. So it's probably your own bias that you refuse to overcome. And this is the reason you don't want to listen to my analysis and the conclusions they implicate. Thailand has had a relationship with the United States over many years. It is complicated. Thailand was in a region the US was bombing. They were bombing Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, and Thailand was next. And the US even encouraged a communist insurgency in Thailand. Had nothing to do with actual communism. And Thailand decided they would host US troops and they would play along. And then as soon as the war was over, US troops went home, and that relationship has gradually faded since, and it has long since been replaced by a much closer, stronger, more constructive relationship with China. And that is where things stand right now. And this is what the US wants to reverse. And doing it through conflict and chaos, internal division and division between Thailand and its neighbors, that is the way the US does it. That is their only playbook. That's what they're doing everywhere else. That is what they're doing here. I will continue keeping an eye on this. I hope, look at the video description below. There will be a lot of links, and I will try to break it up into categories, and you go into these categories and build up your knowledge base on this. I know more about Thailand and the region than anywhere else. There's so much information. It's hard to pack it all into one video. It's hard to know where to even start. Sometimes I take for granted what I know about this conflict. I will continue following this as the conflict continues. I will do interviews on other channels so they can ask me questions that I might not even be thinking about because of how deeply I've been studying this for so long. And I will get all of this information out. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share. Think about subscribing. It's free to do. It helps the channel grow. Check the video description below for other places you can find and follow my work. And again, in the video description will be all of the links that I referenced. That guide to US political meddling in Thailand. Very important. And on my YouTube channel, go here and type in Thailand or type in Cambodia. And I have hundreds of videos that I've done over the years about what is going on, US interference. Me at some of the protests, there were color revolution protests, there were counter color revolution protests. I've done a lot of work on this. I've done a lot of work on highlighting Thai-Chinese relations and how they have been built up. So please look in the video description and go to my channel and search my channel. Also in the video description are ways you could help support my work. I do not monetize my channel. If ads pop up, feel free to skip or block them. They're not doing me any good. If you want to help support my work, please do so through Buy Me a Coffee and also through Patreon. To everyone who has been helping out, whether it's a one-time donation or donations month to month, or if you have no resources spare and you're just helping share my work with others, that is all greatly appreciated. All of that helps. That is what makes this possible. So thank you. And as always, thank you for watching.